chains that bind me. Happiness will find me. Leave it all behind me. Today my life begins. The whole new world is waiting. It's mine for the taking. Leave it, I can make it. Today my life begins. Today my life begins. You're on, Virginia. Take it away.
Davey and I were talking about all the synchronicity that happens when we're putting these services together. And we hadn't talked to each other, but everything is just coming together in a beautiful divine flow, of course. And that's what happens when we stay prayed up and tuned in, right? Well, and certainly hurricane season is a time for being centered within and staying tuned in to spirit within us so that we can handle whatever comes up. And most of us that I've talked to this morning, nobody's had any effects of the storm. Did anybody have any flooding or wind damage? Oh, bless you. And everyone else affected, because I know most of us did not have difficulties, but some people did. And we saw the videos of the flooding and some wind damage. So we pray for all that have been affected, and bless you and your recovery from that too. Yes. I know 4 inches of water even can cause a lot of damage. So blessings to you. So I was thinking about this storm Idalia. That's an odd name, isn't it? And I got to thinking, wait a minute, there's a whole lot of big storms that start with the letter I, right? There was Ian, and that was a biggie. I remember Ida and Irma, and I'll talk about Irma in a second here, and Irene, and of course, Ivan, the terrible. That was the storm that followed me from Florida to Montgomery, Alabama, when I evacuated for Ivan. It was almost 500 miles. I'm thinking I'm getting away from this storm, and it followed me all the way up there. So you never know what they're going to do, as we well know here. And of course, you know, this time of year we face the hurricane stress because we're always wanting not to have big storms. But I wondered, why are so many of those big storms start with the letter I? So I looked it up. My curiosity got me. And it turns out that by the time the people who make these decisions about the names, by the time they get down to the letter I, it's usually the peak of hurricane season. So those are often the big name storms. The storms with I and named with I, and the names that are retired. You know, when you have a really severe hurricane, they retire out of respect for those people who've suffered from that storm. And that there are 14 retired names from storms that start with an I. So that's why that happens, in case you wondered, and if you didn't, now you know anyway. So, you know, and that's that crazy moment when the storm is predicted, and then you've got to decide, am I going to stay or am I going to go? Am I going to, you know, board up and stock up on things, or am I going to pack up and go? And so that's a crucial moment, and it's certainly a time when we need to ask for guidance. We need to center within and ask for guidance. There's a song. I can't believe I've heard of it, even know this song. Not that I'm a punk rock fan, but there's a punk rock song that goes, should I stay or should I go? And it's a rather catchy song. Have you ever heard it? Anyway, there's a lyric in there that says, if I go, there will be trouble, and if I stay, it will be double. So, you know, that's true for storms and stormy relationships, which I'm sure that's what the song is really about, not about hurricanes. Oh, well, hey, put that in your repertoire, right? It's always good for hurricane season, yeah. So I remember when Irma was coming, and it was a giant storm, and everybody said, you've got to leave. And so I always go into meditation and prayer and ask for guidance about it. And I was assured that I was going to be safe. I didn't need to evacuate. Now, this went against all the data that was out at that time. And my family in Alabama were absolutely freaking out. They were just panicked. They were begging me to evacuate. And I said, look, I prayed about this. I have guidance, and I'm assured that I'm going to be fine. And it did not look good. And if you remember, that was a storm that was really headed here and then took a turn. And so the trajectory shifted at the last moment. Again, we never know what they're going to do, but we can certainly pray about it. And so I always pray for it to go where the least harm can be done and try to diminish it. If you've noticed, when Katrina came in, it actually dropped power a whole level of wind speed before it went into Louisiana. And that's against what it should have been doing, right? And I've learned to pray for wind shears because they break them up. So keep that in your prayers next hurricane. Wind shears. We want a lot of wind shears, okay? So of course, hurricanes are not the only storms in life. Serious illness, loss of a loved one, a divorce, a job loss. There's so many financial problems. There are so many storms of life that we have to deal with. But we know in Unity that as spiritual beings having this human experience, we have everything we need in us to face these storms. And I was chatting with Michael before the service, and we were saying, this is why we come together as a community. We come together to remind each other of these truths and support each other in practicing our principles. And so no matter what the storm is, that we can become calm and centered. And I think, Rick, we have a title slide, if that's not already up. I can't see what's up there. So what we're talking about is staying calm in the midst of storms, whatever kind of storms those are in your life. And so we want to stay centered because it's from that center of God, peace of God within us, that we make better decisions, that we find our own inner peace, that we find that we handle everything better, and that our faith is strengthened as we do that. So it's very important that we remember, number one, who we are as spiritual beings, and we remember to use the spiritual principles that we know. Our fifth principle is unity. You got to walk the talk. Don't just know about it. You got to use it. You got to use it. So there's a story in the Bible that helps us. It's also about calm in the midst of a storm, and you may know it. It's in 3 of the Gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And in chapter 4 of Mark, we read about Jesus teaching people by the seaside one day, and they had been there a long time. And so he said to the disciples at the end of the day, let's go to the other shore over here. And so they got in a boat, and they're going across this big water, and a storm comes up. Now, Jesus is asleep in the back of the boat, and the disciples are freaking out. So it's like the waves were crashing over the boat. There was strong winds, and they really feared for their lives. And so they woke him up and said, Master, aren't you even worried that we're about to perish here? And so Jesus woke up. He got up, and he rebuked the storm. And he spoke with spiritual authority, peace, be still. And the wind stopped, and the water became calm. And so he said to his disciples, what's up for you? You still don't have any faith after all this time with me and all you've seen and all we've done, and you still have no faith? Well, let's face it, sometimes when scary moments of life, faith may not be the first thing we feel right away. But we know that as we are prayed up and meditate, we can remember it better. And as we talk about it and think about it and support one another in it, it's easier for us to take the spiritual solution first rather than as the last resort. That's our goal as spiritual beings, as Unity Truth students, that we quickly recover and remember our truth. And so in this Bible story, if we look at it metaphysically, we see that the turbulent waters the turbulent storm may reflect our turbulent thoughts and feelings when we're going through a difficult time. And the sea itself is a reflection or a symbol of our own conscience. You know, sometimes we're calm and sometimes we're not, just like the sea. And Jesus, of course, represents our Christ within, our higher self, our spiritual being, our inner being, by whatever name you want to call it. It is the spiritual self that we truly are. That's our true eternal self. And so as I was thinking about this too, about Jesus being asleep there during this storm, all of us have this Christ potential in us that can be awakened and activated through our spiritual awareness, through our prayers and meditations, and through acting out or using these principles that we have. And so there's a lot of symbology in this story that really reminds us of who we are and how we can deal with the storms of life. Slide 2, please, Rick. Peace is tranquility derived from awareness of Christ's consciousness. That's a quote from Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, because they knew, as we do now too, that even in difficult situations, we can choose to rebuke our fears and our doubts and return to faith. And this peace and tranquility within us allows us to make the best decisions. And Charles Fillmore said this in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and if you don't know about that, please ask me after the service. It's a fabulous book. How many of you know about the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary? Quite a few. If you haven't, it's an amazing, amazing resource for metaphysical meanings of everything in the Bible. So Fillmore said, the majority of people try to sail the ocean of life without the sustaining power of spirit. But eventually they all go down in a troubled sea. If we are centered in our Christ consciousness, all the discordant elements of our life are quieted, and everything we touch with our peace-giving thoughts is reduced to harmony and wholeness. The energy of peace we hold affects the situations of our life, and it affects those around us. You know, peace can be felt. You know, we are able to discern that in each other. And we definitely want to be in a peaceful consciousness when we're making decisions, because if we're not, we may make bad decisions and make matters worse. And that's like a story I heard about 4 people who were traveling as passengers in a charter plane. And it was a small plane with 2 engines, you know, and everything was going fine. They got up to altitude and everything, but all of a sudden the pilot said, we have a problem here. We have, one of the engines is not working well. And he said, the good news is that I will be able to land the plane. The bad news is all of you are going to have to parachute out of here to lighten the load of the plane so that I can land it safely. That's the good news. So immediately these 4 passengers start scrambling for the parachutes, and they find out there's only 3 parachutes and 4 of them. So one man stood up, got everybody's attention, and he said, can't stand up too well in a small plane. He spoke up and said, I happen to be the most intelligent man in the world. It is very important for me to survive for the good of mankind going forward. And so without asking anybody, he jumped from the plane. The next speaker was a woman who said, I need a parachute because I have 3 children and they need me. And I really, please do this for my children. So she took a parachute and jumped. That left an elderly pastor and a young college student. And so the pastor started saying to the young man, I have lived a full life. And the young man said, Father, it's okay. You don't have to say anything more. Guess what? The smartest man in the world jumped out with my backpack. That's what ego will get for you. So how do we get calm, no matter what the storm is? So I have an acronym for you, using the word calm. And that we have a slide for that too, please. So calm, C stands for center within. A stands for affirm your intentions. L is let go and let God. I know you've heard that before. And M is to maintain faith. So that first one, centering within, helps if we relax first mentally and physically. And so in our meditation, I had you hold your wrist or ask you to do that. How many of you noticed a calming effect from that? Yes, and I actually helped a woman on a plane one time who was very afraid of flying. And I said, and she's over there hyperventilating, and I said, just hold your breath, breathe slowly, you're going to be okay. And sure enough, she said, about a minute later, she went, oh, that really works. So it really does. So one thing we can do is hold our wrists. There are breathing techniques that we can use. And also chanting and toning are ways. Like, of course, there's the classic Om for meditation, but you can Om out loud for yourself, and that does help calm us. And so there's more details on a little handout that I have for you that's up in the foyer there. If you want to pick one of those up on the way out, that gives you some exercises for practices for relaxing mentally and physically as we center within. And then, of course, as we center within, we want to bring our attention in. Letting go of the problem, we turn away from the problem and bring our attention into our hearts. You can bring it into your heart, to the crown of your head, to the third eye, or all three of those at once. Just bringing that attention in, we let go of the outer influences and then any negativity we might be holding on to. And so centering within, we begin to feel that peace. And you want to make sure that you are really in a peaceful state. And I practice more and more this self-observation just during the day. Bless you. Take note of, how am I feeling right now? Am I relaxed and peaceful, or am I tense, or am I unhappy about something? So as we observe our own emotional state, we can tell what our spiritual vibration is. And so as we get calm and centered and we go within, and then we listen to Spirit, making those decisions is very important, to listen to Spirit within. And you may be a person that hears, you may be a person that sees images, you may just feel it. Whatever way you receive your guidance, and it's there all the time. I say we don't need to ask for guidance, we just need to tune into it. So we open to that guidance, and then we affirm our intentions, whatever we are, whether it's inner peace, whether it's safety, whether it's healing, whether it's a prosperity, whether it's harmony in relationships. Then silently or out loud affirm our intentions. And then we just let go and let God take care of it. Because it is Spirit that does the work within us. It is not I, but the Christ within that does the work. We just get clear about what we want and allow Spirit to bring it forth for us. It is the Spirit that does that work. And then we maintain faith. Notice when you're out of alignment and bring your attention back to your heart and your mind and center again. Repeat as needed. So, CALM, center within, open to Spirit, affirm your intention, let go and let God, and maintain faith, for faith is very important as we go through the storms of life. Because when we are in a state of peace and trust in the divine, then we are truly empowered spiritually to make the right decisions. We are empowered by strength. We are empowered by wisdom and compassion and understanding all of our 12 powers. So the peace of God is so important for us no matter what is going on in our lives. And right now, all of us are also in a situation of experiencing a storm that comes before the calm, the opposite of what we usually think. Because right now, the whole world, the whole humanity is in a transformative process of coming up into greater spiritual awareness. And you can see it around you that everything looks like it's a mess and chaotic and breaking down, because things are breaking down for a breakthrough. The old is being broken down to create space for a new, higher, better reality. And so it's important that we all maintain a spirit of peace as much as we can so that we can support this transformation of humanity that we're all going through. And we all chose to be here at this time. And so we are spiritually equipped to handle that. And so let us stay continue to practice these peaceful steps so that we are in peace more and more of the time. So I have an affirmation for you to close, and that's slide number 4. Serenely centered within, I am peaceful and powerful. Can you say that with me? Serenely centered within, I am peaceful and powered. And yes, you are. God bless you.